Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggett, founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today on the show, I'm talking to a trio of experts. Joining me, I have Heycar's Chief Commercial Officer, Karen Hilton. Good afternoon, Karen.
Afternoon, James.
I've got Dan Powell, editor of Heycar and Honest John. Good afternoon, Dan.
Good afternoon.
And unfortunately, Pentagon Group's head of marketing, Jonathan Lingham, has been called away at the last minute. So with 17 minutes warning, we've got Sally Smith, managing director of Group Corkills, who have got 3 sites, 2 Volkswagen and 1 Hyundai in the Northwest. Sally, thank you very much for stepping in at the last minute.
You're welcome and good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much for joining me. Let's get started. Firstly, Karen, I'm going to come to you. Let's talk about Heycar a little bit. Can you explain to me about the site and what it offers dealers?
Yeah, sure, James. So Heycar's a car marketplace first and foremost. We launched in August of last year, so just coming up for our kind of 9-month birthday in the UK market. Germany was the first market to launch, so they've been going kind of 2 years longer than us. And essentially we're a marketplace connecting franchise dealers with consumers. I guess the differentiator for us in the market is that we're really focused on quality. So the quality of vehicles, which we put strict parameters around, but also the quality of the service that customers can receive, which is why we only work with UK franchise partners. And the other thing that's really key to us is making sure that someone ends up with a quality finance agreement, one that they've kind of had explained to them, they understand fully. And to do this, we do it through kind of focusing ruthlessly on the user experience of the consumer. So we're a totally ad-free platform. So we kind of keep it nice, clean and simple to help people kind of really understand the car that they're buying from that research phase right down to inquiring with the dealer.
So there's been a little bit of confusion, hasn't there, over the last few months about who advertises on the site and whether it's just Volkswagen dealers. Perhaps we could clarify that and clear it up.
Yeah, I think it's bizarre, right? Two OEMs coming together to back a technology platform is a bit of a first, but I think it's a sign of manufacturers understanding now that consumers value that kind of omni-channel experience. They want to go to aggregators to find things. So we are backed by Volkswagen and Daimler, but we're completely brand agnostic. So we've got just over 210,000 vehicles on the site now. From just under 4,000 dealers, and that covers every kind of, I think last count we have 52 different make and marks on the platform.
So it's pretty much open to any franchise dealer.
Correct.
Yeah. So in the last few months, Heycar has obviously made a very big marker in the sand by buying Honest John out of administration. What was the reasoning behind that, and how did that come about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look at the marketplace, it's quite busy. It's quite cluttered. Even as we were coming to market kind of last August, there were new entrants entering at the same time. I think from the outset, we've known that in order to grow and scale quickly, which we need to do, we were always going to be acquisition curious. And Honest John was a business that we were looking to kind of develop a commercial partnership with. And we were delighted to be able to acquire them because they really stand for the same things that Heycar does, which is kind of open and honest, kind of transparent communication with consumers. And the team at Honest John have been doing this for 25 years plus. So we saw that the kind of brands aligned really, really well. And I guess in terms of our growth and scale, it gave us a massive shot in the arm overnight.
So I'm just going to quickly turn to Dan on this one. Dan, I've obviously known you for a long time when it comes to working together in the motor industry. What did you think when this Heycar purchase came along? I mean, it must have been a very difficult time for you when you were in administration.
Yeah, there was some difficult times, but obviously it made a lot of sense because Honest John has been pushing for transparency in the motor trade, as you said, for many, many years. So it made a lot of sense on a lot of levels, but Honest John remains independent and unbiased with our advice. So we'll continue. It's pretty much business as normal for Honest John, but for the two brands, we do share a lot of values. So it made a lot of sense on quite a few levels.
It must be quite nice having this big parent company behind you now and the resources they've got.
It's nice the uncertainties ended because yes, there was quite a lot of uncertainty for a short while, but that's all sorted, and we're now looking to a bright future for the Honest John Motor website.
Thanks for that, Dan. I'll come back to you in a moment and ask you what consumers are looking into. But I'm just going to turn back to Karen for a moment. Karen, can you explain to me what sort of traffic levels you're seeing at the moment? I mean, it's a very, very disjointed marketplace and very distressed at the moment. What pattern have you seen?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, we're looking at this kind of, it's the first thing we do kind of 7 a.m. every morning is kind of analyze the stats from the day before. I think broadly, up until about the 20th of March, we were kind of seeing normal behavior. So actually, until the government actually made any kind of forced restrictions, we were kind of seeing the seasonality that we would have expected to. From the 20th onwards, when the kind of lockdown was imposed, we saw 7 consecutive days of traffic dropping off, leads dropping off. And I think if you look into the psychology of pandemics, that's kind of the fight or flight moment where, you know, we go into panic mode. What's really interesting from us is pretty much since the 28th of March, we've seen traffic creeping up. So day by day, we've seen, I think, consumers just kind of getting their head around the new norm, kind of understanding the information that the government's been providing, knowing that we could be in this state for quite a few months, weeks, perhaps. And just kind of, you know, I think engaging that kind of good old fashioned stoic Britishness and kind of keeping calm and carrying on. I think what's interesting for us is we had a record day for leads generated to dealers yesterday. So, you know, we've made some quick changes to the site to help people to, you know, register interest on vehicles, realizing that they can't buy them kind of instantaneously now. But I think for us, and James, you know me well enough, I'm kind of the eternal optimist. I think there's a lot of pent up kind of consumer behavior out there that is waiting to be unleashed when we're kind of unleashed from lockdown. So from our point of view, certainly in the last week or so, we're starting to see those green shoots of growth.
I do hope you're right, and I think many of the dealers watching will be hoping that as well. It's probably a good time to turn to Sally now. Sally, do you echo those thoughts? Do you think there's a lot of consumers out there that are ready to buy?
I completely agree, actually, with what Karen's been saying. We saw quite a drop-off in interest in the first week or so after lockdown. I think people were unsure as to what was going to happen, focused on different areas. But certainly over the last week, 10 days, we've started to see more engagement from customers, more leads coming through. And I think more importantly, more actual quality leads where people want to get into dialogue and actually talk genuinely about a car. So no, I would definitely agree with that. I think there are green shoots. We also have one of our service sites open as well in order to provide support for key workers. And again, we are seeing a lot of people still wanting to come out and interact with us in that capacity.
So, Sally, tell me a little bit about Corkills and how this crisis has affected you.
I mean, I think it's affected us like any other dealer group. We shut all our showrooms pretty instantaneously once the lockdown was introduced. That had a huge impact on March, obviously busiest period, right in the centre of getting all the volume of cars out. We kept 2 service sites open originally, 1 for each brand, but we're now down to just 1. And we're just providing some service for them. It's not covering costs, it's just about covering salaries, but it allows us to still interact with customers, to answer the phone to them, to have that human dialogue, to provide the confidence that if their car doesn't need servicing or the MOT regulation, and also to keep that customer interaction. So we're building leads for the future and we'll be in a strong position when we reopen.
How long have you been with the group?
I've been working with the group in a non-exec capacity for about 3 years. I've been MD now for just over a year.
So did you ever think that the full shutdown would happen? I mean, could you see that coming?
I think we could all see change coming. I think to have seen what happened in China, the level of restrictions put in place, maybe at that stage we all believed it was something that was happening a long way away and wouldn't come here. But once it came into Europe and we started to see the impact in Italy, I think it would have been very naive not to think that we were going to have some sort of quite serious implementation off the back of it, because we have to stop this and therefore we have to stop the interaction, and the lockdown will achieve that. So did I see a full lockdown in this capacity? No. I remember having meetings with the team on Monday about how we could do social distancing in sales. We were talking about 1 or 2 guys on a day. We were talking about set days. They would have appointments with customers, 2-hour slots where the customers came in, didn't see anyone else. That was probably more where we thought it would go. But no, we are where we are today.
And On that subject, there's obviously a lot of talk about how these restrictions are going to be eased and how dealers are going to be able to get back to business. Are you planning to put those sorts of measures in that you were going to do back then when you reopen?
Absolutely. A lot of our time now is focused on what might the future look like. And I wish I had a crystal ball and I wish I could see it clearly like anybody else would. But I think we all have to accept that social distancing for probably the rest of this year, possibly into next year, is going to become an everyday part of business. So we're looking at how we can make that real across the sites. We're looking at, lessons from supermarkets. Can we use Perspex screens around service reception? We're looking at social distancing in the workshop, whether we have every other ramp. We're looking at potentially shifts to allow us to deliver volume, but in a safe manner. And we're looking at sales and online sales, I think, are going to become more and more important to all of us over the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
It certainly sounds like there's going to be some massive changes to the industry, but those steps that you've just outlined sort of suggest that we could probably go back to doing business as a car industry pretty quickly, couldn't we?
I think we can. I think as long as we do it responsibly, as long as we think about both our staff and our customers, then I believe we can start to deal. I mean, we are selling cars virtually. Nothing's being delivered because there's a lack of clarity as to whether that's allowed. However, we are taking orders and guaranteeing customers' vehicles for the day we're allowed to deliver. I think we need to think about our businesses differently. We need to take all the learnings that we've gathered over the last few weeks. We need to take technology and use it as effectively as we possibly can. And yes, I believe we could start to reopen soon, once people's mindsets are bedded in, once everyone appreciates that this is the only way we can operate.
Karen, there's clearly a lot of confusion out there at the moment with regards to actually delivering cars. I mean, we've covered it extensively on the website over the last 48 hours, and by the amount of phone calls and emails that I've had off the back of the story and the traffic we've had to it, there's clearly a lot of confusion in the motor trade at the moment about whether people can actually deliver cars. What are you seeing from other dealers that you work with? Are any of your partners managing to deliver cars at the moment, and if so, how?
I mean, I think Sally's right. I think the kind of government guidance on it, and I know you guys have been lobbying fairly hard, it has been kind of murky at best. I think, we've all got ourselves into the headspace of understanding lockdown and understanding the importance of it. Picking up a new or a used vehicle from a dealership just doesn't kind of morally sit right at the moment as a kind of essential journey. It just doesn't feel right unless that person, is providing kind of, the key worker care that we've talked about. I think Robert Forrester's comments earlier in the week are interesting around, dealer networks aren't set up to suddenly shift to mass delivery, but it feels like there is an interesting space to be explored around this kind of click and collect model, which a lot of the kind of supermarkets are putting in place. If you think of franchise dealerships, most of them are fairly big, kind of costly facilities now. So I think to Sally's point, turning them into safe environments where you can do a click and collect style model of a new or a used vehicle feels like a nice transition step to move towards.
Dan, on the consumer side of things, do you think buyers are ready to buy cars online? Will they accept these sorts of changes?
I think so. I think there's a lot of consumers see this as potentially the way forward and the future of car buying. It's already happening. A lot of people are buying cars online. And given that we now buy almost everything via the internet, I think a lot of people are accepting this is going to be the norm for the future. So we've certainly seen a lot of feedback from our readers saying that, wanting to know when showrooms could be reopening, but also asking what the process is of buying remotely. So I think there's a growing appetite for it.
Because I think there's problems on two fronts, isn't it, when it comes to buying online. A lot of dealers don't know what the regulations are when it comes to distance selling regulations. And I suppose on the other side, the consumers don't really understand what their rights are. Yes.
You're looking forward, you'd think that the distance selling regulations would probably need to be revised as as buying cars remotely grows. But obviously for consumers, it's clear, as with Honest John, we're always answering their questions. It's what the site was built on. So we make sure they're informed of their rights when it comes to things of satisfactory quality, what they can expect. And also just trying to encourage more transparency within the industry so that you don't have any problems or confusion. So basically everyone's both singing for the same hymn sheet.
So how's the traffic changed to your site, Dan, over the last few weeks? I mean, what were consumers searching for at the beginning, and what are they looking for now?
Well, it's been strange. It's been business as usual, Honest John, in the sense we've continued to answer questions from, you know, a section of our 2 million unique monthly users. But the trends of those questions has changed dramatically. So certainly we've had over 2,000 questions about the coronavirus. So the traffic trends have moved from car buying to people being genuinely concerned for their health and their safety, and worried that they might have to put their health at risk to keep their car legal, to keep it within the terms and conditions of the manufacturer warranty, and worried about car payments. So we've seen traffic shift to our coronavirus hubs that we've created, and all of those have been created and dictated by the feedback we get from our readers. So for example, we contacted the majority of car lenders to find out what support they're putting in place for consumers who are worried about their income. We spoke to all the major car makers about what flexibility they're offering when it comes to missing a service. Will your warranty be invalidated? So we've got to find some clear clarification on this, and other simple things like jump starting your car or fitting a trickle charger. Will this invalidate the warranty? These are questions that no one had really answered. So as always, we always put our readers and their concerns central to our editorial policy. And if they ask a question and there's no answer, we go about and find the answers for them.
Honest John also has a very big car buying element to the site, a lot of road tests, a lot of reviews. I take it the traffic dropped off to that at the start. Are you now seeing it kind of reignite?
There was certainly a shift. I'd say certainly a shift as maybe like 60-40 over towards the coronavirus advice. But now, certainly this week, it's now starting to get people to ask questions about buying a car, when are the showrooms open, what sort of delays can I anticipate, asking what sort of deals they can get on used cars. There's been a certain shift this week. So I think there's a lot of people out there ready to buy cars, and it's down to the industry to be ready, to be prepared that when the people want to make those purchases, you'd be ready to react.
Sally, what are your thoughts on online sales? Do you think this is going to be the revolution that the car dealer industry needed?
I'm not sure it's going to be a revolution. I think it might be a slight speed up in the evolution. We all have the capability to do online sales. A lot of websites now allow you to at least put a deposit on a used car, if not actually purchase outright. And we can take telephone deposits, etc., from customers with cards and things. So the facility is there. The issue, I guess, is twofold. One is a lot of people like to drive a car. They actually like to see what it's like. And with any form of online selling, the test drive comes out of that. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges we face over the next 6 months, is how we can actually allow them to have that experience again. Used cars, they like to see it in detail. They like to look in the nook and crannies. They need to see that. I think actually if we adopt technology, we can probably deliver that. We can have somebody with a system walking around the car, taking video footage, etc., with the customer actually live, so they can ask questions. So I do think it will continue to grow. I don't think it's a revolution. I think people still like to come and sit in a car to see how it feels to drive, to look for themselves where they're going to put their coffee cup. But with all the concerns out there at the moment, that's probably less important than it used to be.
Karen, what do you think the long-term impact on the car industry will be from this?
I mean, I think it's difficult to tell when we're kind of unsure of how long this will go on for. I think what we're certainly seeing is this kind of acceleration of creativity. So I guess one positive that I think will come out of this is that we'll see, both OEMs, manufacturers, dealers, accelerate things that perhaps would have taken years had we not been in this crisis. Certainly with a lot of the kind of OEMs that we deal with directly, there's far more of a kind of entrepreneurial attitude coming from them right now, because there's kind of a survival intent. So I think we'll definitely kind of see acceleration. I think with a lot of the large scale dealer groups that we're talking to as well, they're looking at, they're kind of taking this kind of period of time to kind of, lift up the lid on their businesses a little, look at, actually, does our marketing mix work as well as it could do? Actually, are we playing with the right players in the industry? Are we structurally set up to cope? So, lots of dealers kind of contacted us very early on to say, we don't have an inbound kind of lead handling center. Can you give us some advice on how to set one up? So I think there'll be some good kind of structural change that comes out of this as well.
And have you had to make some changes quite rapidly to what you do? I know that the register interest button is something that you've put in place. I take it that was directly off the back of this.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that we did, I think about the 10th of March when I think to Sally's point earlier, it kind of got real that this was happening. I think we kind of were, blinkered on, kind of hoping for the best. First thing we did at that point was just go out to our dealers and say, what can we do to help? You guys are the ones that are on the front line with the challenges. And the bit that kind of got back from them is actually, how can you help us to kind of keep that showroom experience alive? So we've upweighted all the video content on the site. We've kind of given more prominence to listings that have videos on, but also just allowing customers to, show a sign of intent, even though there might not be anyone in the dealership that can take that call right now. So I guess the good news for us is, there's 50 of us that used to be in an office in King's Cross that are currently scattered from kind of Peterborough to Brighton. But we have the ability to kind of shift and move quickly. And I think in those first couple of weeks, as new government advice was being released every day, we launched features that kind of only saw the light of day for 48 hours. But it's actually quite a good test for the business to see how quickly can you move and react to these things.
I mean, we've certainly been moving at a pace that I've never moved at before. It certainly made me quite tired in the evenings. Do you think selling cars are going to change as a result of this thing, Karen? I mean, do you think this is going to push everybody online, or are we going to go back to eventually people wanting to just visit dealerships and buy in the traditional manner?
I think when you talk about buying cars online, everyone has a different view. I think of all the kind of consumer studies that we've done, of all of the partners, and we're a bit of an open source platform, so we work with, the GeForces, the Codeweavers of this world to try and make dealers' lives easier. Every single piece of nugget we get is that ultimately customers still like to touch it and feel it. So I think when we talk about accelerating online capabilities, that for me is using technology to kind of remove some of the faff from the process. So allowing someone to come into a dealership on one day and then go home and kind of review the finance documentation online, take some time over it, and not be kind of sat in a dealership for 2+ hours. I think that's where we're going to see some of the changes in terms of how digital will play out with this. We'll see it kind of just take some of those more cumbersome kind of bureaucracy-led steps and make them a bit more slick and a bit more enjoyable.
Sally, what sort of levels of business are you managing to achieve? I know we've touched on it briefly, but what does it look like, and has that grown as the lockdown has continued?
From a sales point of view, we're having good dialogue with a number of customers. We're probably converting 2-3 orders a week, I would think. It's not huge numbers. From a service point of view, we've only got a skeleton team on anyway, and we're only dealing with people who genuinely need their cars, key workers, etc. So we're covering the costs of the people who are working, but that's about it. But this isn't an opportunity to make money. This is an opportunity to look after our customers and to keep the relationship so that when everything does get closer to normal, you're the person they come back to, in my view. From that, I feel that we're working quite well at it.
I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball now. When would you think that you would be back working in some way, shape, form in your dealerships?
I've always believed that we will start to ramp things up a little bit more from May. Initially, I thought it would be early May, but after the continuation of the lockdown now to the 11th, I think it'll be mid to the end of May. I think initially we'll start to open service up a little bit more for other people who need their cars. Obviously with the government completely behind this, but as more and more people start to go back to work, potentially more people will need their cars to rely on again. And I think I agree with everybody else today. I think probably online selling and delivery will be the future for now. And maybe by June, July, we might be able to start up some sort of interaction with the showroom, but in a very controlled, very strict social distancing type format.
Well, fingers crossed that is the case. Karen, what are your best dealers doing at the moment? I mean, what are you seeing as best practice out there for operating right now?
I think it broadly falls into three camps. So, customers aren't making that instantaneous purchase decision because they can't. So kind of nurture is kind of more important than ever before. So, using the time to perhaps, enjoy a little bit more of an extended sales process and really make sure that the customer has all the answers to all the questions that they need. I kind of mentioned it earlier on, but kind of really getting under the hood of your marketing mix. So, making sure that actually what channels do you need to be live in right now? I think as an industry, every single player out there has done the right thing in terms of, cutting costs or kind of eliminating fees to support dealers during this time. But obviously dealers do a lot of their own marketing mix as well. So looking at the various elements to see how you can get them to work harder. I think, Dan's kind of testament to this, but what people need now more than ever is information. So it's a prime opportunity for dealers to invest in SEO, take content that's out there and just make sure that their customers can find it. Because I think the Honest John site is evidence enough that there are an awful lot of questions out there that customers are finding it hard to kind of find the answers to. And to Sally's point, if you can keep your customers informed during this kind of state of crisis, then I think you'll win their business for the long term.
Sorry to interrupt you, Karen. I was going to say on that point, I think the biggest problem with the SEO front is a lot of dealers have furloughed their marketing and PR departments, isn't it? Would you suggest that that's something that dealers invest in getting back sooner rather than later?
I think dealers will have made furlough decisions based on their own business setup. I think this for me is where that natural entrepreneur stuff kicks in. So, we've seen dealers that are kind of doing e-commerce, which is technically a type form with a PayPal account attached to it. And I think now more than ever, consumers are forgiving. Like they know we're in weird times. So, if you've got a sales team that are kind of sat around getting the same questions from people day in, day out, why not make a blog post? Why not put it on the website so that people can find the answer to their questions? So I don't think that necessarily, dealers need to start bringing staff back because, furlough decisions have been made for very clear reasons, but really using the team that you have on site to the best of their ability.
Dan, on that point, what do you think dealers should be providing consumers with information on? I mean, what on your experience and what they're searching on the Honest John site, what can they use to implement when it comes to their own?
I think dealers, there's a lot of opportunity at the moment to enforce that sort of transparent and trust. I don't think you need a big marketing team to do it. For example, sending out an email newsletter once a week, clarifying situations on warranty, MOT, tax, just keeping that, as I say, nurturing that relationship and just communication, because you really want to just keep basically your customers informed of what's happening. And even if you only have a little bit of information, if you just share that with your customers, they will respond to that very positively. So nurturing and communication is key. And you don't need a big expensive marketing to do it. You could send out a weekly newsletter. One person could do that quite easily.
Sally, are you managing to do any of those things?
We've been doing the updates to the websites about once a week as things change. We've sent a couple of emails out to our database to inform them when we've had sites open or closed sites. I think I've learned some lessons from listening to the guys in the last couple of minutes, and I think there's probably more we can be doing, and I'll be taking that away today. Because we are lucky enough to have people answering the telephone still, we are actually providing that support to people one-to-one. But it sounds like there's more opportunity for us to take it online as well.
I haven't been very good at going to the questions that we've been getting online today, but I've just noticed one that's come in that I am going to ask you. It says that digital should be very good at handling test drive bookings. This is from Mark Brown. He says a specific car at a specific time, unaccompanied if needs be, could be facilitated. What are your thoughts on doing test drives in that way?
Absolutely, I agree with Mark. They can be facilitated. They could either be facilitated through customers coming to the showroom for a specific appointment, or we could look to maybe take cars out to customers as well. At the moment, we're not looking at that because it wouldn't feel right in the current environment for people to be driving cars around for the sake of it. But these are all things we need to think about. And yes, unaccompanied, we should be able to manage in the future as long as we can understand insurance implications, etc.
These all come as the lockdowns slowly ease, I'm sure, and the sooner we can get to that, the better. What do you think the motor trade can look forward to? Let's try and get some positives, Sally.
I think the motor trade will come back stronger than it was. We're an industry that maybe's got a little bit stuck on occasion. We talk about loads of things changing around us with autonomy, electrification, digitalisation, etc. I think maybe this, and taking a point Karen made, this has made people think. And I think we'll come back having learned some lessons, looked at our businesses, and probably much more agile and efficient as a result. So I think we'll come back well.
Karen, what are your thoughts? What do you think the motor trade can look forward to?
Yeah, I think we'll see people adopt digitally massively in the next 2 or 3 months. I think we'll get a much more open mindset in terms of manufacturers, dealers working together to kind of deliver cars to customers in the most efficient way that they want them. And I think we'll kind of, I think one of the things that I hope that we'll see come out of this is, if you look at the car industry, it's probably the most challenging industry to basically say, can you all go and work from home? Like it's, I remember kind of being a regional manager for a manufacturer, kind of, you were in the showroom from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's just how the industry works. And it's actually been quite heartwarming to kind of chat to some of the dealer groups this week who, they've brought people in to manage online inquiries that are completely out of the industry. And bring a whole new set of skills to it. So I really hope that we can kind of transfer some of those more flexible working ways back in, and not forget that just because it was imposed overnight, actually there's some really good stuff that's come out of this. Because I think, personally, it'd be great to see a bit more kind of diversity of thought coming into the industry. And if we can make the kind of hours and working environment a bit more attractive, I think that will really help.
There's certainly going to be a huge amount of change off the back of this. I'm personally hoping that the days of driving around the country for a 1-hour meeting will be ended, and we can do them on things like Zoom, so I can save a lot of my time. But finally, just a question for each of you. I'll stay with you, Karen, for this one first. What's the most important thing this crisis has taught you?
God, that's a good question. I think the one thing that I've been pleasantly surprised and amazed by is if you've hired great people, they'll thrive in any situation. And I think we've, with a small team of 50, with the kind of Honest John team having joined us in January, it's been remarkable to see the team pull together and really bring that kind of can-do-if mentality. We've kind of almost like banned "know the cause" from the vocab in the Heycar world at the moment. And I think we'll kind of hark back to this time of, remember when we broke all the rules and did everything because we just had to. I think that's what's been kind of amazing as kind of a leader of a business, and it's something that we're definitely going to try and hold on to when this is all over.
Sally, same question to you. What's the most important thing this crisis has taught you?
Similar to Karen, really. I think it's the value of team and ownership that we've had. Watching a number of people being asked to go home literally at 10 minutes notice that they're being furloughed, they don't understand the future. The ownership, the response you get back about the willingness to do anything they need to look after the business has been really powerful. And I think it's that value of everybody having the same direction and really operating together as a unit has been really good.
And Dan, what about your thoughts?
I think it's that we're on the verge of a really exciting digital evolution, because we've seen motor shows cancelled, we've seen a big upswing towards people now looking at shopping, doing the car buying experience online. I think that's going to accelerate. I think a lot of old ways are going to be swept away, and I think already car companies are having digital showrooms. I think there's a real momentum, and it's a really exciting time. And as with any sort of evolution, it's going to be the companies that are most adaptable to change will be the most successful. And I think when the lockdown lifts and we come out the other side of this, I think there'll be some really exciting changes. Well, a massive thank you to all of you, Karen, Dan and Sally, for stepping
at the last minute. I really, really appreciate your time today. If you'd like to find out more about what Heycar does, you can log on to heycar.co.uk, and for some solid consumer advice, head over to honestjohn.co.uk, where you'll find Dan and his team writing huge amounts of words. If you haven't already, please download and read our latest digital issue of Car Dealer magazine. You can download it on our website. We tweaked the website yesterday, so have a look at the homepage, let me know what you think. You can also find the Car Dealer magazine on Issue. It's a free app. Download it on your iPad and your phone, and you can read it free of charge. This week I've got some more brilliant guests. Tomorrow it's Kia UK After Sales Director Chris Lear and Sales Director Steve Hicks. On Thursday, I'm chatting to the Perry's MD, Darren Arden, and on Friday, Peter Vardy. If you would like to get involved in Car Dealer Lives like them, or like the guys today, you can email me, james@blackbullmedia.co.uk. Find me on Twitter at Car Dealer Ed, or on LinkedIn, send me a message there. And if you've got any questions for any of those guests, please get in touch. I'll do my best to answer them. There's a full schedule for Car Dealer Live on the website, or check back every weekday at midday on cardealermagazine.co.uk for our next live broadcast. That just leaves me to say a huge thank you to Karen, Dan and Sally for joining me today, and I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.